economist Tuomas Malinen. I'm getting pretty full of this person's lies that he spreads on English-speaking channels. I just watched one video of him doing so. Malinen is a good example of a person who's an expert in one field, but can be just completely lost in other areas, as in his case, geopolitics and security policy. And not only in this, but Malinen is incompetent in geography as well, it seems. I don't know about the host of this show because this particular episode is the only one I watched on this channel, but at least based on this single one, he seems to be very different from Professor Malinen, because whereas Malinen largely fulfills his own geopolitical views with different conspiracy theories, the host of the program seems to back his views based on historical facts and logic. Either way, both of them managed to end up completely wrong in several ways. Malinen starts his interview or whatever it's called about the situation in Finland by saying that, in his view, Finland's current situation is largely due to the russophobia of the largest party in Finland, Kokoomus, without basically justifying this any further. However, it is worth remembering that the current president of Finland, Alexander Stubb, who comes from that party, pushed for free movement of Russians in the EU for a very, very long time. And as recently as 2018, he called Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov his good personal friend. And he was attacked by this just a couple of months ago in BBC. And he basically admitted that he was wrong about Russia. But he was very much not a Russophobic at all. He was just complete opposite of that. Even the previous president of Finland, Sauli Niinistö, who was also from the same party, Kokoomus, was known for a long time as a Putin's whisperer, and was considered to have a particularly good relations with the Russian leader. So this all is just based on Malinen's imagination. There is no russophobia in our political parties. After this, Malinen starts to complain that Finland was taken to NATO and that Finland signed the DCA agreement with the USA, and all this happened without asking the people's opinions. I mean, it's absolutely true that there were no referendums on these issues, but there are no referendums on these issues anywhere in the world anyway. So Finland is in no way in a special situation regarding these issues. It just simply wouldn't be possible to start asking the people's opinions separately on each and every issue. The system that we have in Finland is about the fact that we elect the representatives to run our affairs without them asking the people for permission to make decisions each and every time, because that's just is not possible. It's not our political system. Maybe in Switzerland it is, but for the rest of the world and in Finland it's not like that. I mean, referendums related to these issues were conducted during the parliamentary elections last time we had them. You had your opportunity to have your say back then. So basically, just shut up now. Next, he starts to develop his own conspiracy theory related to corona measures in Finland a few years ago, and some kind of coup which he thinks was carried out during the corona measures. According to Malinen's source, the corona restrictions that were introduced in Finland at the time came as direct orders to then Prime Minister Sanna Marin from someone outside of Finland. Personally, I consider Malinen's source to be very unreliable because the corona measures in Finland were by no means particularly exceptional compared to other countries. They were not more strict or anything like that. Maybe compared to Sweden they were, but Sweden was a sort of, Sweden had a very different tactic than almost the rest of the world had. Apparently Malinen's source also called for then Prime Minister Sanna Marin to be sentenced for gross treason, which of course is completely an absurd idea because gross treason is only a wartime crime. No one can be tried of it in the times of peace. So, Tuomas, you and your source, go back and read Finnish law. After this, the discussion moves back to Finland's signing of the DCA agreement, which just happened a couple of weeks ago, with the United States. Again, without fully understanding the Finnish law, Malinen starts to claim that the agreement in question gives the United States the opportunity to import nuclear weapons to Finland. Now, this is a completely ridiculous claim because Finnish law does not allow nuclear waste or nuclear weapons for that matter to be brought in the territory of our country. The law is very clear on it. Again, Mr. Malinen, go back and read Finnish law before you start to talk. In Malinen's opinion, this is a funny thing. In Malinen's opinion, if the USA was to bring nuclear weapons to the territory of Finland, it would be exactly the same as Russia taking nuclear weapons to the state of Virginia, because it would be so close to Washington. I mean, yes, this is Dr. Malinen's logic. So in that case, Russia would be forced to start a war. Mind you, Malinen was saying the same thing before we joined NATO, that Russia is forced to invade Finland if we even consider of joining NATO. And then when we consider to join NATO, it will happen when we join NATO. It still hasn't happened. It's over a year ago when we were accepted to be part of NATO. When this matter is dealt with, then he starts talking about possible war between NATO and Russia and how it would turn out. In his opinion, Russia would just simply take over the Baltic Sea and Gotland Island that belongs to Sweden. And after that, Finland would be forced to surrender. It took Tuomas 6 months to figure this one out, but he forgets the fact that the Baltic Sea is particularly not NATO Sea, because every single country except Russia is part of NATO now in there. But that's not all. Malinen concludes in his geopolitical flash of intelligence that Finland is an island. That's right. According to Professor Malinen, Finland is an island. Tuomas, please just look at the map, will you? Because Finland definitely is not an island. I get what you're saying. You mean that most of the goods that we import come through sea route. But there are other ways of importing to Finland also than the Baltic Sea. Just look at the map and think for yourself. If you actively follow Malinen's X account, you will notice that he is constantly predicting the Third World War. And of course, he does exactly the same in this podcast. I can even count on how many times in this podcast he mentions how Finns are being prepared for the Third World War. According to Malinen's Twitter or X account, the Third World War is always about to start, within a few days or possibly in a few weeks. However, from time to time, Malinen also warns of a major economic collapse, which is also happening within a few days or weeks. He's continued to do this for a couple of years now. He's also claimed for a couple of years now that he will move out from Finland, yet he has not done that either. In the interview, it's also very clear that Malinen is a great friend of the period of Finlandization, a period of time when Finnish politicians sometimes had to deal with direct orders from the Kremlin, or at least have the Soviet Union's opinions in their minds when making decisions about our foreign policy. A time period when, bound by the YYA agreement, Finland was economically also in the sphere of influence of Soviet Union. But Malinen sees nothing wrong with this. On the contrary, he's just mesmerized by the memories of the Cold War period. I can speak for the majority of Finns when I say this. There was a reason for what is called the policy of Paasikivi Kekkonen. It was during 60s, 70s, 80s, and possibly even in the beginning of the 90s. And there was a reason why Finns wanted to join the EU when the Soviet Union collapsed. The time of Finlandization was an era when Finland tried to manage as best as it could, living next to an aggressive superpower. It was dictated by necessity, not by a choice. Malin is downright overwhelmed with happiness, and he basically smiles from ear to ear, and his eyes are lit up when the presenter of this episode starts talking about the time of the Paasikivi Kekkonen policy. It's just absurd that a person who complains that Finns are given orders from the outside of Finland, but at the same time he's so overwhelmed by happiness when he remembers the time when Finland was part of the Soviet Union's sphere of influence. I mean, I get it, Tuomas. I get it. You were in the 70s, 80s. You were a small kid, and your parents took care of you. You had no worries in the world. I get it. I get it. But you're a grown man now, okay? And then the discussion returns to DC agreement again, which Malin claims is an agreement to walk over Finland's right to self-determination. But in no way is that true, because no US soldier will come to Finland if the Finnish decision makers do not accept it. So it's not an agreement that the USA can decide for itself when and how it will place its soldiers on Finnish soil. This claim again is completely false, what Malinen is representing here. At the end of the podcast or interview, whatever you want to call it, Malinen tells how Finland was able to live in peace with the Soviet Union and Russia for 8 years, and how it's possible because we show it to be possible. But Malinen, hey, how was it possible for the Baltic countries to live in peace and harmony with the Soviet Union? Tell me. What happened was that they lost their independence because they didn't fight back Soviet Union when they started their invasion. The only reason why Finland was able to live in peace with Russia and the Soviet Union, and is still able to live at this moment, is that we fought 2 bloody wars with Soviet Union. That is the only reason why Finland was able and has been able to live next to Soviet Union and Russia for so many years. And that is the war that Ukrainians are fighting now. They are fighting their own winter war at the moment. But people like Malinen and likes of him, they want to hand out Ukraine over to Russia. And they want the people to believe that peace with Russia is possible at this moment. But it won't be possible. It's not possible, as we've seen from the history. The smaller countries next to Russia don't have a chance to live in peace unless they fight for their right to exist. That is the only way to make long-lasting peace with Russia. But these people just want to hand out Ukraine to Russia, probably because they are scared of things escalating over more. What would happen if Ukraine agrees to the peace agreements of Putin? I mean, Putin doesn't want peace at any cost. He wants Ukraine for himself. And if you all decide to give Ukraine to Russia by not helping Ukraine military, we will give the next country to Russia as well. Now that's a fact. For a buffer zone at first, later it will be part of Russia, and then they will need another buffer zone. That's it. That's how Russia has gone from this size to this size. And then it could be a NATO country. The Third World War would really start then. And that's why Ukraine must be supported as long as it takes, or as long as Ukrainians are willing to fight for their own country and existence.